We see leads coming from two different directions. You have buyer leads and you have seller leads, right? People that are going to sell their house and people that are looking to buy a house. And sometimes there's some overlap or duplication in those. We've built tools like community pages that allow people to come in. We show information about a particular city or neighborhood or subdivision or school district or something like that. So buyers can start to get the kind of information they need. But what our team tries to do is we try to think about it. What do people need to get fresh leads? How can we use software to help these real estate agents get leads that are going to be buying homes or going to be selling homes? We want to put HighLevel into all this stuff because we think if they get tied into HighLevel now, they're going to get nurtured, because just getting a lead and having it sit in your inbox, then you come back in 2 weeks, you're like, oh shoot, I forgot to call that lady about the thing. That didn't do you any good.
Welcome to the Spotlight Session. It's a game-changing interview series that showcases award-winning agency owners to share secrets of starting and scaling a marketing business.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of our Spotlight Sessions, where we bring in high-level users that are either using the software for their business or developing on top of it to give you some of the next best ways that you could be leveraging HighLevel for yourself or for your customers. I want to introduce you to one of our customers and someone who builds on top of the HighLevel marketplace as well, James Call. He's a familiar face at some of our recent SaaSpreneur live events from Dallas, Texas, and Dubai, and a few others I think we have on the map that we should be seeing him at. And you may know him already, or maybe you're learning about him for the first time. But our episode is geared around getting you the knowledge and strategy to serve your real estate agent clients. And if you're also a real estate agent, this will resonate with you. James and I are putting together here a jam-packed episode with a bonus. So after this episode, in the comments, there'll be a link for a walkthrough of what he's speaking about. But let's get into what you should expect from this episode. We're going to be talking about bullet point number 1, which is why agents struggle with leads. Bullet point number 2 is easy lead generation strategies that you can control. And bullet point number 3 is follow-up that converts without having to push the buttons and pulling the levers each and every time yourself. James, I feel like I've been seeing you more and more often. It's great to see you again.
Hey, good to see you too, JB. Good.
Awesome to have you here. And I know you've been at several of our events, our Level Up Summit, and all these good things. And you've been working behind the scenes, which is pretty neat to see the final product. But for those that don't know you yet, could you share a little bit about how your beginnings in what you're doing now happened? And why did you choose to start building on top of the HighLevel operating system?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, JB. So I was actually a real estate agent back in 2009, and back then I tell people I made hundreds of dollars as a real estate agent back then. It was kind of a tough time in the economy. And I started using some of the software to get leads on my website and try to find ways to build leads. So I moved to a new part of the country. I stopped being a real estate agent. We started building this software. We became a developer partner for a company called IDX Broker. And as time went by, we became aware of HighLevel through some customers of ours that wanted to know if we could build something for HighLevel. And we built an app. And we really enjoyed working in the HighLevel ecosystem, meeting all you guys at all these events and seeing just the enthusiasm and the excitement about HighLevel. And we've been able to help folks use HighLevel to resolve some of these problems that they're having with getting leads, nurturing those leads, and following up with people.
Yeah, and it seems like pretty much every industry has this same pain point of, right, what's the process? What's the strategy? How much do you have to do of the heavy lifting? And where are the bonuses and the gimmies just for doing the work? And, especially like you had mentioned in the real estate industry, a lot of folks are bombarded with different strategies, tools, and everything in between. If you're okay with that, I'd love for us to dive into our first topic here, which is why agents struggle with leads. If you don't mind sharing a little bit about maybe what caused you to struggle when you first started,
Yeah.
and then when did this shift from looking at it from the lens of maybe sales and acquisition turn into developing and growth, and pretty much solving the problem that is repeated year after year after year.
Yeah, for sure. So it's interesting because I moved from a different part of the world. I moved back to where I grew up in Northwest Arkansas. I became a real estate agent, and was trying to get some traction there. And what I thought is if I signed up as with a real estate brokerage, they were going to give me leads and I was going to be able to figure this out, or somehow magically it was all going to happen. And come to find out that was just false. So I had to figure out how to build a website, how to hook up all this data, how to follow up with these people. And what I kind of realized as I was doing this when I was a real estate agent, I thought, gee, you almost need one person to do the real estate part and another person that just does this back end part and manages this whole lead capture and the whole lead follow up thing. So I think the reason a lot of agents aren't able to get enough leads is because they don't know the mechanics behind all these things. There's so many tools out there in the marketplace that you could use and that could possibly help you. And so we found that if agents can use HighLevel as the core or the foundation of everything that they're doing, you guys have Facebook ads, or you're going to be having them pretty soon. You've got Google ad integration. So you have ways to capture leads, drive traffic to your website. Then we bring in the property listings through the IDX that gets them to the next level, and people can kind of focus in on that. And now as they go through the cycle, a buyer in the United States takes about 6 months typically from the time they decide to buy a house till they close on that house. There's a big process. There's a time frame there. And if you think that you're going to send them one email or one text message or make a phone call and it's a done deal, that's just not the way it works in today's world. So you need something like HighLevel that's running that back end for you, or you could do it yourself if you're not selling real estate, I guess.
And for majority of our audience are marketers, they're agency owners of all different revenue and different experiences, different parts of the world. When it comes to an agency or a marketer or a professional within the advertising industry looking to attract and serve real estate agents, could you share a little bit about what lens you should be looking through, and almost like what's the language or the end result you should be working towards?
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting because the market in the United States and Canada is like one market, JB, and then the whole rest of the world is a completely different market, right? So those are kind of two different animals. They play by two different rule sets. And we could talk about the international market. I mean, maybe that's a different thing. I don't know. But in the United States and Canada, most of the real estate agents are folks in their mid 50s. The average real estate agent in the United States is 55, 56 years old and female. And so nothing against older people or females, but a lot of these people are not that familiar with all of these tech pieces that they need to really compete in today's world. So, yeah, I think that's where the HighLevel comes in on
Yeah,
this
and
one.
even you buy a new TV, you buy a new phone. I
Yeah,
feel like these days it's leveled out the playing field. Like, you know, I don't want to embarrass myself here, but sometimes I am looking for the manual, right? Or I am Googling the best use case or strategy because these items are so complex. So for a marketer or an agency jumping in here, how could they help a real estate agent that is hone in on their one way of looking at things to see it from a wider lens?
yeah, that's a good question. So what we see with a lot of the agencies that we work with is that they bring in some marketing skills. They've got client acquisition skills. And when they show the realtor, hey, if you use this system that we've developed, we're going to get you clients. We're going to help you follow up with those clients. We're going to get you closings. And we're going to get you to the closing table, because that's ultimately the goal. We've seen other products where agencies generate a ton of leads for agents, but they're then the agents have to try to figure out how they're going to sort through those and manage that. So I think with all the automations and stuff with HighLevel, what we're seeing is those marketing agencies are able to turn traffic into closings for the realtors using all these tools.
Absolutely. And just to finalize on this first bullet point here, you talked about it briefly with so many different tools, applications, apps, ways to advertise, ways to capture, nurture, close. Some with cool names, some like that are like underground, or maybe they are developed by the broker or by the parent franchise
Yeah.
for the agents to push down. Could you talk about the importance of taking complete ownership of your database and
Yeah.
your leads and really nurturing them, or at least understanding when to put them in your briefcase when the time is right?
Yeah, for sure. So I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but I was an agent at a big national brokerage, and they gave us all this cool software and all this stuff that they would do. And as they were talking about this, all these agents in my office were getting all psyched up because we just got bought out by this big national chain. And as I was sitting there, I was just thinking, wait a minute, if we do this, all of a sudden, all of these websites, all these leads, all this stuff that I generate is going to belong to this national company, and it's not going to belong to me. And if something happens and I go sideways with my broker, with my company, I want to own my own leads. I want to own my own website. I want to own my own business, basically, as a real estate agent. And so that for me was a huge issue as an agent. And so I was able to leverage that. It gave me the flexibility that I actually own my own business. I get my own leads. I own those leads. And if I go away or my brokerage changes their mind about something, they can't sell that lead to you. If you're another agent in my office, they can't do anything. Those are people that I contact. So I think that is a super valuable part of this. We talk about the importance of home ownership. As a realtor, you've got to have lead ownership. You've got to own those leads, because that's more important than home ownership. You own your own business.
Yeah, and James, whether you agree or disagree, I feel that in today's marketing and awareness mediums that are out there, there's a lot of talk around, right, taking extreme ownership and working hard and staying positive and motivational talk and all these different elements that sometimes it goes over the head as just extra noise. But there is something about having a checklist and fundamentals of, right, once a month, make sure you're updating your list, make sure you're managing your relationships, make sure your campaigns and all that good stuff is on and working and relevant.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that leads us into this second topic that we spoke about prior to us going live, which was the easy lead generation strategies. And you know again, with your expertise, you're working with thousands of agents. I think you had shared statistics around how many agents are out and about. Would you mind sharing that?
Yeah, there's the National Association of Realtors just published a report at the end of the year. They said there's 1.2 million realtors in the United States. It makes them the largest trade organization in the United States.
Yeah. And,
So I don't know, go ahead.
and I'm no real estate. I'm not a real estate agent. I don't have any sort of real estate license or anything like that. So I'm speaking from, when I had my marketing agency, when I would speak to a real estate agent, and maybe this is outdated, so please correct me if I'm wrong, but the power was in the MLS
Yeah.
database. Like having those listings where a potential home buyer or a qualified lead could navigate and look at their own leisure and sort and look around in different areas that you were subscribed to of the MLS. Is that still relevant?
Yeah, absolutely. What's interesting is that these MLSs they're groups of realtors in each metropolitan area that pool all these listings together. And so there's a lot of value. We're working with some people internationally to get this set up a little bit better internationally, because if you don't pull all your listings together, you don't have enough property to get to like critical mass on your website. You have 2 properties on your website. Nobody's going to do business with you. Well, you want to, if they're buying properties in Miami, nobody wants to go to 4,000 websites looking for every property for sale in Miami. They want to go to jbsellsmiami.com. You got 8,000 homes or 80,000 homes on your website. They can look through every single one of them right there on your website and make the transaction with that. One other thing
go ahead. Yeah.
No, one other thing that I think is interesting is a lot of people say, well, wait a minute. Yeah, like JB says, that's old history. Nobody uses that anymore. Everybody goes to these big national portals. And the truth is if you look at the top producing agents and the top producing teams and the top producing companies in the United States, they all have IDX or MLS feeds on their websites, because when people come visit their websites, they want to see information about the real estate agent. They want to see social proof about the real estate agent. This is according to NAR, the National Association of Realtors. And the third thing is they want to look at property listings. So some agents don't do it, or they think, hey, everybody's going to go to Zillow anyway, so I'm not even going to do it. And that's okay, because that just leaves more air for all the top producing agents who do bring their MLS listings, who do tie in the IDX data to their website. And that's why these top producers are kicking butt, because they've got all the tools in place.
Yeah, James, sometimes the real estate industry reminds me of back in the day when car dealerships used to be up until like 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. Now you can't find a car dealership, even if it's a high end, open past 6:30.
Okay.
Right. And I
bought a
feel
lot
like,
of cars, so I don't know about this, JB.
and I feel like, it's the consumer and the sales, right, professional have almost switched roles. Like you almost got to convince or even just like come with your full research to any salesperson that is a veteran or knows what they're doing and say, hey, could you beat this number? Here's why. I
Yeah.
know this, I know that. And the consumer is at times more knowledgeable about these, I guess, let's say, sales tactics of, right, piggybacking off of maybe your broker's MLS listings versus having your own. Are
Yeah.
you the best person to help me sell the home versus
Yeah.
just find a home because you live in the area or maybe you don't even live nearby? So I feel like that MLS is so powerful, but when we touch on what Realty Candy does and your expertise as a developer, could you put the developer hat on and just kind of share with us from that perspective how you look at lead generation outside of just spending money on ads or flyering or whatever the case may be, networking?
Yeah, so we see leads coming from 2 different directions. You have buyer leads and you have seller leads, right? People that are going to sell their house and people that are looking to buy a house. And sometimes there's some overlap or duplication in those. So what we've tried to do, and again, because I was a real estate agent, I think it gives us a lot of like on the ground knowledge about how this whole system works. But we've built tools like community pages that allow people to come in. We show information about a particular city or neighborhood or subdivision or school district or something like that. So buyers can start to get the kind of information they need. There's home valuation tools out there that people want to know, what's my home worth? That's a common question. And we have other tools like single property websites and stuff that help sellers homes be sold quickly. There's open house integrations and things like that. So as a software developer, what we've tried to do, and I have a whole team that works with me. This is not me typing this. We have some great folks that work here. But what our team tries to do is we try to think about it. What do people need to get fresh leads? How can we use software to help these real estate agents get leads that are going to be buying homes or going to be selling homes? And then once we get them as a lead, now the next step is, and honestly, JB, over the last few years, what we've tried to do is all these tools that we make, we're trying to build an integration into HighLevel for all of them. I don't know if it's okay if I mention the HighLevel word here, but we want to put HighLevel into all this stuff because we think if they get tied into HighLevel now, they're going to get nurtured, because just getting a lead and having it sit in your inbox, then you come back in 2 weeks, you're like, oh shoot, I forgot to call that lady about the thing. That didn't do you any good. So we want to make sure it's all tied into HighLevel so that they get success with it. And so that's what we're trying to do. Tie in with lead capture tools, lead magnet tools, get it into HighLevel, get them all the way to the end, close on a deal, make money. Because if an agent's making money, then they want to pay for services, they want to do things and build their business. And if they're not making money, they're going to quit and start, working at somewhere else in town.
I see you filtering yourself, James. As people get to know you and they meet you at our different events, you're actually really fun and wild. And I feel like
Well,
you have like this cool, calm collective, and I appreciate it because we want to keep the video up online.
they told me to keep this G-rated, so I'm trying to keep this baby mellowed out a little
I
bit.
got it. And I appreciate it very much. But I think, as I'm listening to you and I'm putting on my new real estate agent hat. I just complete the training. I just complete the certification. I get the background check. I got the paperwork. Now I have to figure out how to sell and do contracts and all that, right? And
Yeah,
go from there. I need leads. And now
yeah,
I'm trying to figure it out myself. I see that's a job. I hire a marketing agency, maybe someone that's serving a gray label or selling HighLevel or a white label of HighLevel. And now I'm expecting them to know, and I'm willing to pay them to help me get there. This is the missing component
yeah,
that now they'll have because, and correct me if I'm wrong here, if I were to go onto like a WordPress or another site, you would buy some sort of widget to put on there, and
yeah,
then you'd have to just like figure out how to set it up, and they usually charge fees and all that stuff for that. Like it's not
yeah,
easy. It's not a plug and play
yeah.
on these sites. But here it just goes right in from the marketplace. You get verified that you're an agent and you're up and running. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's true. You touched on something there that I think is important, JB, is that the truth is, if you're a new agent and you sign up, I'll be super honest with you. You may not want to just show up at Realty Candy because we're not marketers. We're not that great at marketing. We wish we were, but we're actually, I don't know if you may have to edit this out, but we're actually horrible at marketing. But we partner with these agencies that sell HighLevel. They're great at marketing. They're really good at marketing. We know how to do this real estate, MLS, IDX software development. We're really good at that. And we're kind of horrible at this other part. So our job is to support those guys who take the new agent from freshly minted to doing transactions and making money. And now in 10 years, they're one of these successful agents that we see on TV or something like that. But
Absolutely.
we can't do that on our own because we don't have that knowledge base. We don't think you can be good at lifting weights and making doilies. We think
Ooh.
that, we're all good at something and you can't be good at everything. And that's our theory.
I wholeheartedly agree with you. And I think, if you're tuning into this right now, I forgot we're even recording this at the moment. We're just going in. And I think, those are the best episodes where you start to really put yourself in the scenario, you go back and you start to strategize moving forward. If you're an agency and you know a lot of real estate agents, and let's face it here, hopefully no direct real estate agents listening to this, but they seem to know as maybe more than you at times based on maybe their experience, but you know what you know, and that's the missing piece that they're experiencing. I really believe that if you continue to listen on here, you're going to know exactly how to speak the agent's language and also be able to partner with somebody who was an agent who made a couple of $100 and is now developing for agents that make a whole lot more than that plus more. So
Yeah.
it's a nice trade-off to learn this and to find a market, in your area to support it. So anything that you want to wrap up on this lead generation strategy? We stayed on MLS, and I feel like that is the most relevant to how this all works because you need the MLS, and there's gold there.
Yeah.
Anything else you would want to touch on before we move on to the third?
No, I just think that the key part is making sure that they have an integrated system. Most real estate agents get confused if you have 100 different pieces of software for people to use. And so what we're trying to do is bring this all together so it's all in one place and people can use it in one place. It makes it easy for real estate agents to do this and they don't have to manage 100 different softwares. So we think that's really valuable.
And based on your experience, you mentioned, some stats around the average agent. Based off of your expertise and what you see on your day to day, what are some of the standards that agents are having in their toolbox without mentioning maybe brands, but more of just like outside of maybe the branded email or maybe the Gmail Yahoo email? What are you seeing in your expertise that this can fill the gap as like a all-in-one solution?
Well, yeah, that's a great question. When you have, uh, an email that looks like jbrealtor@gmail.com, to be honest with you, when I see that as a consumer, that doesn't inspire a lot of confidence. I'm going to feel a lot better about jb@jbsellsmiami.com, right? So I think for us, we see that having a real estate website is a critical part of this whole thing because we all do that to validate people. I mean, if there's a new Greek restaurant in town and we want to go check it out, the first thing we do is go Google them or go look them up. And the same thing happens with real estate agents. If you're going to get a plumber, you're going to go look up plumbers on the internet. If you're going to get a realtor, people want to know, they want to validate that you're actually a realtor. So you have to have a decent email, a good domain, a good website. And then I don't know, I keep pitching this HighLevel thing here. I don't want to get in trouble for that, JB, but you said not
They're
to
gonna
mention.
think you work at HighLevel here sooner or later,
Well, I
James.
got a shirt, man. I'm trying to get a job, brother. Um, but you got to have something, you got to have HighLevel tying this all in there together so that now this is all automated. Because the truth is if you're a normal real estate agent, just think about this, JB, just like when you're talking about voice AI for just one thing.
Mhm.
I'm a real estate agent. I got your mother-in-law to go out and look at a house with me. Your mother-in-law and I are at this house. It's 123 Main Street. It's beautiful. It's $800,000. I'm putting the key in the door to unlock that door to show her the inside of this house. I set up an appointment, the whole thing, and my phone starts ringing.
Mm.
What do I do? Well,
Oh,
if I have HighLevel, I don't worry about it. Voice AI is going to take care of it, or whatever. I have any solution. If I get a text message, HighLevel is going to take care of it. I get an email, HighLevel is going to take care of it. So I can keep showing houses to people, or I can drive around town and show your mother-in-law 8 different houses without stressing out the whole time and checking my phone the whole time. Well, I hope she turns around and looks at the kitchen so I can check. I got it taken care of. I'm working with an agency. They've set up HighLevel for me. This is just going to be really smooth. All I want to do is sell real estate. I don't want to build this whole tech stack to do this thing. So for us, we think that we love building tech stacks. We tie it into HighLevel. We work with those marketing agencies, and we think you get all those pieces together, and it allows the realtors to do what they want to do, which is build relationships with people, sell real estate. So I don't know, maybe that's too
and
easy.
that answering the phone is like a big one because it's like it could go, oh, they commit to me, but then what if I'm the one that's calling? Are they not going to answer my call? Like,
Yeah,
there's like a whole like you don't win that thought process. And I think people know when it's AI and people know when it's automated, but I feel like it's socially accepted and it's respected that you have your stuff together. I mean, I don't want to go to a closing table with an agent, a title company, an insurance company that don't know what they're doing,
yeah.
and I'm either gonna lose the deal or have to pay more than and or have to leave the deal.
Well, it's to me, it's pretty easy. Like you put on the thing, you put on your AI, it just says, "Hey, this is Carl. I'm the voice assistant of JB. He's out showing houses right now. Ask me any question. I'll help you out any way I can." And don't tell anybody, but we're releasing a software next week that it ties into voice AI. One of our agency clients want us to get something that ties into the HighLevel voice AI. So we're able to get the voice AI and create real estate searches for people based on
Oh
what they're
wow.
asking about on the search. And now it's going to respond back to them with a text alert that says, "Hey," or a text message or an email or whatever, however they want to get back in touch with them. It says, "You asked about properties in Miami between 400 and 600 with 4 beds and 3 baths in the Lincoln School District. Here's some properties. Take a look at this." And
I think for that amount of money, you can only get like a one bedroom or not even a loft.
it's a humble, it's a mobile home. It's a mobile home. They do mobile homes. 800, you gotta, I mean, what do you expect, JB?
I love it, man. Well, I think well, so this last thing here, and this is something I just thought about. How do you feel, James, when you go to a website and they don't have any sort of listings on it, just generic text and themselves with nothing to search, the buttons don't work?
Yeah, that's a hard question. So I'll tell you the truth, JB. I mean, obviously I make a living because we sell this stuff, but I tell people, I'm like, dude, if I was your brother-in-law or I'm your cousin and you're never gonna do it any money, or no money's gonna change hands between you and me, go work with one of our competitors if you want to. I don't care, but you have got to get property listings on the site. And I'll usually give people three or four things. Say, I would do this, I would do that, I would do the other thing, and it's usually the same things. Get a picture of yourself, get us a little social proof on there, get those MLS listings, get an IDX feed set up to your website. We're not the only company in the United States that does this. We think we're the best ones, but there's a bunch of people that do it. Get it done, because you cannot compete in today's world if you don't have that. I mean, it's like if you're a framer on a house and you don't have one of those air hammers and you're just out swinging a real hammer all day and you put a nail up there and hammer, you look at a nail gun today, and there's like boom, 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 boom.
Mhm.
They can, what are you going to do with a hammer and a bag of nails? There's no way you're going to compete. So that's the same thing that happens with these real estate agents. You've got to have the right tools. You've got to have the right equipment to be able to do a good job.
Yeah, and this is leading into our final and third bullet point here around follow up that converts. You had mentioned, midway into the last conversation here around, having community information, having relevant stats, right? Being the local authority, not being the agent that lives two states over but has a license in the state that somebody wants to move into, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I know this stuff exists out there, and I'm not judging, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, in today's world, I feel that it's not, and this is my opinion, I feel that it's not about only the logo that maybe you represent, but it's more of also your business acumen and your personality and how you are, right, helping the customer make the best decision based on expertise. So, school districts and, crime rates and all these different elements, like what's in the area, what are the attractions, what are the transit, so on and so forth, are typically on Google, Yahoo, Bing, whatever search engine within the states or outside. There's these directory sites. But James, not all these sites are up to date and they're not always all right.
It's true.
Does You mentioned there's something in your setup that you guys offer where people can do the research and plug it in and kind of make their own?
Yeah, those community pages become pretty valuable, JB. When you were saying that, it made me remember when I was a real estate agent, I built a website that was all about this one subdivision where all the Walmart executives and the vendor executives would move in and out all the time. And this one subdivision had an incredible amount of traffic in our MLS. They bought and sold a ton of houses in this one gated community. It was beautiful. And because I had a website that was just focused on that one community, um, one of my competitors, a realtor that sold most of the real estate in there, he told me he went on a listing appointment and his client said, "Hey, I love your listing appointment, all your information, but what I want to know is, can you get me on this website?" Which was James's website. And what happens is that people perceive me as the authority on that neighborhood, even though the horrible truth is I wasn't selling any real estate in there. But I had that great website. My buddy, actually, his name's John. John was selling all the real estate in there, and I just had the best website. But people viewed me as the authority and not John, which is kind of funny. So we've made a tool too, like this one-click community page builder. So you can click a couple buttons. I think I'm showing this thing up here where it takes 10 seconds or 12 seconds, and it gives you some great AI generated content. You have all the listings in that community. And like you say, that becomes really valuable when people want to know, hey, where can I get the newest listings in my town, in this school district, in this subdivision? Um, and as a real estate agent, if you're trying to sell everything in Miami, that's not going to work, to be honest with you. If you're doing like duplexes in South Miami, you're going to crush it because you're the only one doing that. And I think for real estate agents, when they focus in on a niche that they're going to service, and you talk about this all the time at HighLevel, the value of niching down. When they niche down into a specific area or a couple areas around their home or an area they're familiar with, they kick butt. But when they try to get like all of Northern California, they tend not to sell anything.
Yeah, and I appreciate you just going deeper on this and just painting as much of a visual that you can, because there are agencies and marketers that are tuning in, learning this for the first time. This is new to them, and there are others that have their agency and they have a real estate license. And this existed.
Yeah.
And I've seen it with several of our marketplace apps and our customers that build and are innovators that, like I had met somebody that they started out, servicing car dealerships, and then they bought a car dealership. Like, there's value in being in the business or serving the business, and that
Yeah.
expertise shows dividends when done consistently. And that being said, consistency, you had mentioned that specifically earlier on. When we talk about follow-up that converts and, having lead magnets, a good MLS, a good, internet presence, a good brand awareness, in your expertise being in the meetings and speaking to successful agents and those that are just using your platform and so on and so forth, could you paint the picture on that follow-up that converts? What does that look like today from your point of view? And how can
Yeah.
someone package that as knowledge to share with somebody or be aware of it for themselves to take action?
Yeah, so I think that the follow-up's just a killer on this whole thing. It really separates the successful people from the folks that are going to struggle with this. I had a bunch of problems with the follow-up when I was an agent, to be super honest with you. And so I see that, and I may have mentioned it already here, but the National Association of Realtors said in that report that they've released, I think they said it takes like 6 months from the time somebody starts being a buyer till they close on a deal. That is a super long time. And we often think that we're going to be able to turn somebody like, we're talking about your mother-in-law, JB. Hey, she wants to go look at properties. I'll show her this weekend, but I want the woman to buy something because I don't want to drag this out for 2 months with her. But the truth is, these successful realtors, they already know that she's not going to buy a house for 4 to 6 months because she's got to sell her other house or whatever. She's got to make all these decisions. So they've built systems that get you from day one to day 180. And that's the kicker on this whole thing, because going from day one to day three, you can do that with, piece of paper and a pen. But to get out 180 days and keep in contact and have meaningful conversations with people and share meaningful information with people, you've got to have a system in place to do that. There's really no other way to do it.
Yeah. And as you got me thinking here, I feel like, the buyer or seller is one of the customers, but also in this industry, the agent on the opposite end is the customer. Their broker is the customer.
For
The
sure.
title agency is the customer, because
Yeah.
everybody is looking how everybody does business.
Yeah.
And if it requires one to pass a referral or to split the deal for
Yeah.
whatever, rules and regulations wise, well, they're going to have to give it to someone they trust or at least know that is competent.
For
And,
sure.
and I
Yeah.
feel like, the commission, right? That's a whole other topic around the commission and working for the commission and how much should you get versus how much you deserve and so on and so forth. This all has to do with packaging your business presentably as the best.
For sure. And you mentioned all those players in there. One that you didn't mention that I'd just like to throw out there is the mortgage
Ooh,
brokers or the loan officers, because we work with a lot of real estate agents that for them it's super important to have a really tight relationship with those mortgage um, brokers and those loan officers. And we see a lot of tie-in with that. To be honest with you, folks are tying in with HighLevel with this because they can both see into the sub account and see what follow-up is going on. Where are they in the process? Where are they in the transaction? So if I'm a mortgage officer and I'm doing a transaction with a realtor and I can see in there that they're taking care of these clients, I want to refer business to that person. I want to do business with them because I know that we're going to have success together. If this is somebody that's kind of screwing around and they're over here like me, with a notebook and a piece of paper, no mortgage brokers want to screw around with me. They want to go work with somebody that's going to have success and do deals. So I
And
think that having that all together, a great system for everybody to see that what's going on, see that you're being successful, that success breeds more success.
and this real estate industry, for those that maybe aren't serving marketers that aren't or agencies that aren't serving real estate agents, maybe you've heard from others, oh, stay away, or oh, it's not worth it. Everything kind of has that yay or nay associated with it. But what I really admire about the real estate industry, James, is the referral partners. Man, everybody is just working at it. They truly go off of the last experience. They truly go off of the word. And they, although maybe they party hard sometimes, they still pass business to who they know, like, and trust.
For sure. No, it's true. One of the things when you're saying that, JB, it makes me think about that I was telling people over the last year or so, our business has grown faster than it's ever grown. And people ask me like, well, how's that? Isn't the real estate market down? We don't want to work with realtors in our agency because the real estate's down. This is what I would tell people. I grew up in Arkansas, and so in Arkansas they have these trout farms. You can go out and grab trout. You throw a little bit of dog food or something in there, the trout will jump up, and if you're about half smart, you can reach in there and pull a trout out of the pond or the lake or whatever it is. That's the way the real estate market was after COVID. Anybody out there was just selling houses and making money like crazy. Well, now it's pretty hard. And they've got to go out now. It's like out at the lake where they have to, fish and they, throw their line in and they reel it in and there's nothing there and they get a good lure and they do all this stuff. And what we feel is that we, with these marketing agencies, we sell fishing poles. And back in the day when, the realtors are just doing all these transactions, doing all this deal, they didn't need us. Now the realtors, the market's changed and the market's kind of tough. And those realtors that have the right tools or the right equipment or the fishing poles, as it were, in Arkansas, they are the ones that are going to have success. So if we work with marketing agencies that help us bring this success to these realtors, the realtors, that's what they want. They want somebody that's going to help them get the job done.
All right, James, you had me fooled. You've been mentioning Miami, Miami, Miami. I thought you grew up in Miami.
No, I'm
You
an
telling
Arky
me
man. I'm from Arkansas.
I was about to move to Miami because you kept saying Miami. JB
I'll
South
sell you
Miami.
some property in Northwest Arkansas. I grew up in I actually grew up in near Bentonville, where Walmart's based out of. That's where I'm
I
from.
love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, you know what, James, definitely I got a chance to get to know you. And again, that's not me, calling you every day or texting you every day here, right? But the times that I did get to know you, it's been fun, knowledgeable, and hopefully our audience feels the same way, right? As they hear us chatting about this. But there was a bonus you put together in the link below. You walk through actually everything that you've pretty much have spoken about. So
Yep.
you could take a look at that in the link below. There'll be some information. It's in the app marketplace. You can look up James's information there. But again, you have to be a real estate agent. You have to be licensed with an MLS. And there is a
Yep.
process that they go through to confirm that you're approved and authorized to use the IDX listing.
Yep.
Just so that way, there's red tape and red lines associated with it. But
Yep.
if you're an agent and you got all that, you shouldn't have any problem outside of what I don't know. I'll leave it up to the expert, James.
No, you're absolutely right, JB. I think most of the real estate agents and the brokers totally understand this thing. Some of the agencies, the marketing agencies, are like, "What? I didn't know you had to do this," but it's just part of the real estate space, and so we're pretty comfortable with that. And like you said, we show some of that stuff in there, and I really appreciate you taking the time to visit with me, JB. I've been thinking about you guys a lot lately. I'm kind of nervous, and I told you I got all dressed up for this and everything. I appreciate you visiting with me.
I appreciate you, man. It's been fun. And James, before we start parting ways here, we got some comments below. Make sure you take a look at those and get back to these folks. But more
Absolutely.
importantly, any parting comments? I mean, how do we wrap this up with a bow on it and get people to take a look at that video?
Yeah. I think that if you have a marketing agency and you're looking to take care of realtors and you want them to stay, you want to reduce churn, or you want to have great retention with real estate agents, these softwares that we've made that tie in with HighLevel are just a game changer for agencies. And we've had a lot of people come to us. They said, we want to build some software like yours. We watched a bunch of your YouTube videos and we realize it's going to take us, a couple years or a year or two to build this out. And we give all this stuff away for free. And they're just like, this is a no-brainer. We're going to come work with you guys. So we hope that it works for single real estate agents. It works for marketing agencies, for offices, and we try to cover the whole gamut there. But we think that there's some great value to be had there.
Well, James, thank you so much for hanging out. Thank you to
thank
our
you,
audience for listening. And we got
Thank
more on the way. Let's get out of here, man. We got
Okay.
to get all this stuff set up here and get these. They're going to start clicking the link. So it was a pleasure. I'll see you, man.
Hey, thank you, JB. We'll see you.